Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. My name is George King Rory, and today we are going to talk about how to make money or millions from sheep farming. And how do you make this amount of money? Of course, there are several things to consider when you are entering into this business, because many people think about the money, but they do not think about the things that you need to do to be able to get this money. And today I'm going to talk about these simple things. So the first thing, you need to consider the breeds. Yes, the breeds. What breeds are you going to keep? Because breeds are so important, because you might keep a breed that does not grow fast enough. So you might have to stay for up to a year to be able to get your sheep growing to as big as 35 kgs. Your desire is to be able to get your sheep grow as huge as 35 kgs in less than 4 months. Why? This is because you make money when your sheep are growing fast, and so that you can be able to sell faster. You do not want to have stock that is eating and eating and eating, and is going to give you money for a long period of time. Again, if this breed grows fast, it is able to give birth faster. And remember, the other main source of income for any sheep farmer is when sheep are able to give birth continuously. And that is how you make money when your flock is growing as fast. The other thing that you need to consider is the feed. What are you feeding these animals? Because just like a human, these animals need a diet that is balanced, a diet that is going to give them enough protein, and a diet that is going to give them enough carbohydrate, a balance of minerals and vitamins to be able to enable these animals grow healthy. The other thing that you need to consider is the housing. Gone are the days when you keep your sheep in the open grass fields and leave them to sleep. You need to protect your animals from predators. You need to protect your animals from the elements of wind and rain and all these things, so that these animals can be able to flourish. Again, you also have to consider their health. You have to give them the vaccines that they need. You have to cater to the needs of the sickly animals, so that you can be able to control any disease, any pests. You also need to take or have a plan for the kids. The kids are the babies of this sheep, because like we talked about earlier, you make money when your sheep are also giving birth and your flock is growing, because then you have more animals that are growing, you have more animals to sell, and you make more money there. The other thing that you need to consider is the genes. Yes, the genes. What am I talking when I talk about the genes? The genes means that these animals should have a good genetic formulation. They should have the genes of the best animals in the flock. So when you are breeding, you have to be very selective. You breed only the animals that are healthiest, grow fastest, have the desirable characteristics, and you ensure there is no inbreeding in your animals. And so let us go further, so that you can be able to see what we are talking about. Of course, the first thing that we are going to talk about in detail is the breed. You should also consider why you're keeping this sheep. Is it for meat? Is it for wool? Is it for milk? Is it for cheese from the milk that you're going to produce? What is your purpose for keeping this sheep? You do not want to have a merino sheep that you're going to keep for meat, and you have no desire for the wool. And especially when you keep this animal in a place that is so hot, so this animal is suffering. This animal cannot grow, and the purpose for which you are growing it is not intended for that climate. So you need to consider the feed. What feed do you have for these animals? Because various breeds cannot, for example, there are various breeds that you cannot be able to browse. Certain sheep cannot be able to browse easily. Certain sheep can only work on grass. Certain sheep can only work on particular types of feed, alfalfa and all these other things. Certain breeds are used to be fed by hay. So you need to consider also the feed for the breed that you already have. The other thing you need to consider that is of utmost importance is the birth rate. How much are they giving birth? How often? And how fast are they giving birth? Is your animal maturing in 4 months and is able to produce by the 6th month a kid? This is how you're able to grow. So you don't want animals that are going to stay for years before they can give birth to the first child. And you don't want animals that are going to, after 2 years, cannot continue giving birth to additional young. Because, again, like we talked about, the ways to make money in any farming enterprise that includes sheep is sale of meat, and sale of animals. Because remember, there are certain breeds that can be able to put on 35 kilograms in 3 months. There are certain breeds that are going to give you only 8 kilograms in the 3 months. So imagine you have animals that are going to put on weight of 8 kilograms only in 3 months, and another farmer is going to get animals that are going to eat the same but produce 35 kilograms of meat in 3 months. Who is going to make the profit? And that is where the breeds make sense. The other thing that you need to consider is the feed. Many people plan to grow and to make money, but they do not consider the feed. The feed is like fuel that fuels how fast your animals grow. The quality of the feed is important. The availability of the feed is important. The availability of certain nutrients in the feed is also important. If you're looking at high growth rate, then the feed that you give must have higher protein levels. That is where alfalfa and other certain types of grasses come along, because the feed will also going to increase your growth rate and your birth rate. Remember, a sheep and a goat that is well fed can give birth to twins, but one that is lacking in nutrition will not give birth to twins. Again, the mortality rate improves significantly when the animals are well fed. Again, another thing that people don't talk about, when animals are well fed, they're able to resist diseases a lot more. So, the thing that you need to consider is the housing. And again, housing is so important because you need to keep your animals dry. They need not to be rained on. You need to keep the animals or the space where they are staying airy, because remember, you do not want to have a lot of diseases, any flu-like diseases that are spreading through your animals. You want it to be airy, and so that the bad smells and the bad odors and the dirtiness is able to be aired out. The other thing you need is the spacing. Don't keep your animals too constrained, too in a similar space, because again the diseases spread much faster. Keep your place clean. The best kind of housing that you can be able to provide is one that is raised, then has a way of allowing the droppings of the animals to fall on the ground, so that the animals do not sleep on their poop, they do not sleep on their urine, and they are able to keep off from attracting a lot of dirt on their skins and on their furs. You need to keep the place comfortable. Another thing that you need to consider is the predators. Ensure that your housing is well guarded, well protected, so that your animals do not fall prey to predators, wild dogs, other people's dogs in the neighborhoods. You also need to keep your animals comfortable, because the more comfortable your animals are, the more they concentrate on feeding, on breeding, and on growing. Then again, housing is important because of sickness. The more this housing is terrible, the more the sickness is there. Ensure that you keep your animals in a place that is comfortable for them. The other thing that you need to consider is the vaccines. Yes, the vaccines. You need to ensure that you have a regimen of how to vaccinate your animals. Ensure that your animals are isolated if they are sick, so that disease does not spread to all the animals. Ensure that you are keeping your animals free of ticks. Have a regime where you are able to ensure that every 3 weeks at least your animals are able to be sprayed, so that they can be able to keep ticks and other parasites away from their skins and their wool. Ensure that you share. If you have goats that or if you have sheep that need to be shared, ensure that they are shared on time, so that they also do not struggle with a big coat of wool, so that they can be able to be free to put on weight and they can be comfortable when the weather changes to hot. Ensure that your animals are well taken care of. Ensure that you have a visit from the doctors, the veterinary doctors, so that they can be able to check the animals to ensure that they are okay. Ensure that you are constantly implementing a schedule of health that is sufficient for your animals, because remember, when you take care of the health, the animals grow faster. The costs related to taking care of animals reduce significantly. Ensure that you take the animals' health. The other thing that people don't talk about or don't think about is the kids. The kids are the babies of this sheep. Because remember, the lower the rate of animal death for the kids, the more your flock grows significantly. Because like I told you, remember, people make money in sheep business more from the animals that are born rather than the meat that is sold. This is because they can be able to grow exponentially in terms of numbers when they are well taken care of. When you have a good policy of taking care of the young ones of these sheep, then you are able to ensure that the mortality rate improves significantly. So to take care of their feed, ensure that they are well fed, that their mothers give them enough baby milk, ensure that they are isolated, they are not kept with the general population, because when they are kept with the general population, rams that are chasing after ewes that are on heat can easily trample on these animals. Ensure they are protected, because remember, they cannot be able to protect themselves. They are still young. When their mothers go out to look for pastures during the day, ensure they are kept in a place that is secluded, that is secure from any predators that may be able to attack them. Ensure that they are vaccinated on time, because remember, smaller sheep are more prone to disease than the older sheep. And this is how you'll be able to see the mortality rate of your animals going up significantly. This is where you're able to see multiplication of your flock, and consequently the multiplication of the money in your bank. The other thing that we consider is the genes. A lot of people do not think about the genes. You have to ensure that your animals have the right genes. Ensure there is no inbreeding. Inbreeding meaning a father ram giving birth with a daughter, or a mother giving birth with a son, or brothers giving birth with each other. It is specifically known, and you can do your research, that inbreeding causes a lot of difficulty and a lot of problems, because your stock is affected by the genes. So if these two animals are related and they have a particular weakness, this weakness becomes more highlighted in the offspring of these children. Look at royal families in Europe that used to practice inbreeding, that used to practice cousin and cousin getting married, sister and brother getting married, such kind of arrangements. The kings that will be born had particular weaknesses, had particular weakness of skin diseases, had particular weaknesses of being problematic as regards to allergies and things like that. And you do not want these problematic characteristics to be inherited in your animals. So what do? You ensure there is no inbreeding. So change the main ram in your farm, or the main rams in your farm, and exchange with other farmers. In fact, you can sell off after every 2 years and bring new fresh ones that can be able to improve the breed and the characteristics of your animals. Ensure that the animals that do not have good properties are culled out of your population. If you're looking at the ewes that are going to produce young, if an ewe gives birth to twins, that one is a keeper. If an ewe does not give birth easily without help, that is an ewe that you need to sell off as meat. If an ewe has a problem with his teats, cannot be able to produce enough milk, that is an ewe to sell. If an ewe cannot take care of its young well, that is an ewe to a female sheep to sell. If a male does not have characteristics of growth, quick growth, if it is not robust enough, that is one to sell. If one is born from the main male, that is one to sell, because again, you do not want son and mother to mix. You do not want father and daughter to give birth to offspring. Ensure that you strategically offload animals that are not used to you. You can even have an alliance with another farm, so that the animals that you do not want to mix their genes with the current animals, you can be able to give them in exchange for others. That is how you're able to ensure that there is no inbreeding and bad characteristics in your flock. Have you ever gone to buy, and this is something that I need to talk about, because many people are conned in certain farms. You go and buy animals in a specific farm, but they are giving you the culled animals, the animals that have bad characteristics, the animals that have had inbreeding, the animals that cannot give birth without help, the animals that are bad mothers. You buy those. So you also have to be strategic in buying, because you do not also want bad characteristics in other farms to come into your farm. So when you ensure the health is there, the health improves, because they have no characteristics that make them prone to diseases. they multiply faster because they can give birth faster, and consequently your money also goes up. So let us talk about the money. What do you need? You need, of course, initial purchases. You need initial purchases of the sheep that you have. You need initial purchases of the land, because you need land to keep these animals. In as much as you might lease land, you also need to have land so that you can have structures that are permanently in place, so that you are not kicked out in case the owner wants to use their land. So you also need to have physical land that you own. You need to have housing for your animals. You have to have feeds, salt, water. These are consumables. Then you need to have vaccines and medicines, and costs to do with veterinary doctors. You also need to have labor on site to be able to shepherd the animals, to be able to keep the animals safe, to be able to ensure the water is there, the salt is there, and everything is provided for. Then the income is in three forms. There is meat sales. When you sell meat that has been slaughtered, animals that have been slaughtered. When you sell sheep that is live. So live sheep. The other thing is manure sales. So let us talk in detail about this cost and a particular scenario. So if you are going to start a farm, do not start big, because again, you also need to learn. You do not want to have a learning curve with many animals and with a lot of problems and eat all your money, because remember, this is a venture that requires a lot of money. This is a venture that requires you to have a lot of knowledge. So do not want to take a lot of risk with a lot of animals, and remember, when you're unable to take care of them and the death rate goes up, you might enter into a loss. For an initial investment, for somebody who wants to start out, you can start with 6 ewes, 6 females and 1 male. Ensure that you buy these ewes in one farm and a ram in a different farm, so that there is no chance of inbreeding. And you have already picked your breed that is specific to your area. In my area specifically, Dorper sheep work best because they gain a lot of weight, they are adaptable to the land, they do not need shearing, and because the reason that I keep them is for the meat, they are also good animals in terms of growing fast enough. So for me, 100,000 is enough for 6 ewes and 1 ram. And remember, this can be seen as a high cost, initial cost, but I'm looking at the best possible genetics to start off in the farm, because when you start right, then you're always going to reap wonderful benefits. Then I'm looking at purchase of land. 2 acres is sufficient in the area that I'm looking at. 2 acres to be able to have the structures and the basic infrastructure. Then around 10 acres on lease around the farm that I'm looking to buy. This would allow me to have additional food, and these 10 acres could go as high as even more money, and these 10 acres could be leased to as little as 10,000 per acre per year, or 20,000 per acre per year, depending on the size and the quality of the land that you're leasing. And again, because I do not need wonderful land that is flat and can be farmed, I can be able to get leased land much cheaper, because I can be able to get land that has a lot of shrubs, has a lot of growth, and it's going to ensure that my animals have a lot of food. The other thing is housing. Housing for at least 50 animals is around 400,000, because you need to ensure that the structure is solid, because the structure is raised and the floor allows for poop and for urine to be able to flow outside, and roofing to be able to protect the animals from rain. 400,000 is is okay for 50 animals. Then feed, salt, water for a year, and any additional items, food items, could be around 50,000, because remember, I'm already leasing land, so I've already taken care of the food. Then vaccines, around 25,000 for the whole year. Then labor, around 250,000, which includes somebody to look after the animals and any particular need for a veterinary doctor who may be able to visit and be able to assist on taking care of the animals. The other part is the land preparation, and this is the part that people don't talk about. If you're going to keep animals, ensure that your land can be able to grow grass. If your land it dries up quickly, ensure that you set up structures that can be able to collect rain, so that your land soaks up a lot of water, so that you can be able to keep grass green for a longer period of time. Ensure that water does not flow out of the land that you're working with, so that your grass has a lot more time to have water seeping in the ground to be able to allow your animals to have grass for a longer period of time. So land preparation, fencing, setting the paddocks and things like that. So that could include 75,000 or even a little bit more. But the total cost inclusive of everything could come to around 1.6 million. So that is the cost. Again, people might look at these figures and say this is too much for only 6 sheep and 1 ram. But we're going to talk about the cost in greater detail. So the scenario is this. The first year, I do not look to sell anything because my farm is growing. I'm trying to keep my numbers up, and I'm looking at a scenario where I have more animals. So the first year I'm not selling anything. And of my 6 ewes and 1 ram, I'm looking at having 30 sheep at the end of the year. So 18 mature animals and 12 young animals. Then by the end of year 2, if I continue to keep my regime in place, then I could have 150 sheep, and which will be 90 mature animals and 60 young kids. And because again, this is a profit-making farm, I will start selling in the second year. So in the second year, I will offload 80 sheep, probably the oldest animals, the animals that I am looking to cull, the animals that I'm looking not to mix with the other animals, probably the animals that I'm looking that have gained enough weight and can be able to sell. So 80 of the mature animals I'll be able to sell. And if each animal is at least 40 kgs, and I'm at least able to sell at 400 kgs, 400 shillings per kg, I'm looking at a gross income of 1.2 million after the first year. So the second year, 1.2 million gross sales. Then if I'm going to deduct my annual expenses, and remember, I'm not talking about fixed expenses because this can be able to be apportioned for a longer period of time. I could be able to have a net profit of 900,000 Kenya shillings from my farm, that is keeping sheep. And this is how you start making millions, because if you're going to sell less in the second year and keep a little bit more and sell in the third year, you could be able to have to sell even 120 sheep. And if you're selling at 40 kgs, you could be able to make your sales of up to 2 million gross sales. You could be able to have a net income of even 1.4 million. So there you have money, and that is where you make money from sheep farming. A lot of people do not look at sheep farming as a business, but you need to look at it as a business, because when you look at it as a business and are able to put in the right breeds, able to take care of the right animals, you are able to protect them and safeguard them, you have a policy to be able to cull off the animals that have undesirable characteristics, then you'll be able to, you see your farm moving from high productivity to high income to much more than you ever imagined. I hope that you are learning, you're growing, and you're becoming better in your financial affairs. Remember, my name is George Kingori, your online finance guy who's here to educate, elevate, and to motivate you in your financial journey. Thank you, and enjoy your day.